Bullies tore her shirt in front of everyone. What she did next broke his nose. It was a day like any other in Eastvale High. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, but for Clara, a shy girl with frizzy hair and oversized glasses, an ominous feeling wrapped around her like a thick fog. She felt it in her bones. The locker corridor buzzed with the cacophony of laughter, gossip, and the sharp clatter of shoes on linoleum. And then they came. Jason and his crew, the self-proclaimed kings of the school. Their laughter echoed like knives in Clara's chest. It happened in a flash. 1 second, she was clutching her stack of books. The next, Jason yanked her shirt, ripping it right down the seam. The sound of tearing fabric sliced through the crowd's chatter. Gasps filled the air, morphing into cruel giggles as the entire school turned to witness the spectacle. Clara's cheeks flushed with a hot, burning shame as every eye darted to her exposed skin. "Nice shirt, loser," Jason sneered, and the world blurred. Tears stung her eyes, slipping down her cheeks. She stood frozen, one foot rooted in place, while the other wanted to flee. The humiliation throbbed through her body like a wild beast. But then there was Leo. He stood at the edge of the crowd, a quiet hero with comforting brown eyes. He rushed forward, right into the tumult. "Hey, back off, Jason!" His voice shook, but Clara could see a flicker of bravery behind his fear. The bullies turned on him, laughter morphing into threats. For a heartbeat, Clara thought Leo would push them away. But when he stepped forward to act, Jason swung around, and the next thing she knew, Leo was on the floor, clutching his nose. Crimson trickled down his face, painting a stark contrast to his pale skin. The crowd gasped, and Clara felt a twist of pain in her heart. How had it come to this? Her friends were whispers now, her world a spin of chaos. As Jason and his gang strutted away, she felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, judging, laughing, ignoring her pain. That night, Clara wiped tears from her pillow and realized it was time for a change. If she wanted to stand tall, she had to face her fears. With Leo's encouragement, she vowed to train in martial arts. The thought of learning to fight filled her with both dread and hope. What if she could rise from the ashes of embarrassment and become strong? But the deeper she dug into her training, the more secrets she uncovered about Jason and the others. Their laughter was often a mask for pain. Pain rooted in their father's past, in scandals that had rocked their families to their cores. Clara kneeled on her bed, her mind racing. Would it be enough to just defend herself? Or would she need to confront Jason again? The choice loomed in front of her like a dark cloud. She could feel the energy welling up inside her, a spark of something new and terrifying. But one thing was certain. She wouldn't let her fear define her anymore. She had power now, the kind she never thought possible. But what would she do with it? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just do a quick check on that red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, smash that like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person in this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara lay awake that night, her heart pounding as the weight of what happened pressed down on her. She could still see Leo's blood, feel the weight of his courage, and the sting of Jason's laughter echoing in her mind. It was a crossroads. She felt it in her gut. The next day, Clara strode into the gym, her mind buzzing with a fire she didn't know she had. Every punch struck the bag with a surge of strength. Maybe she would find herself through the sweat, through the energy. But the deeper she dove into the routine, the echoes of the past whispered in her ears, wrestling with her newfound determination. Days turned into weeks. Clara poured her heart into those late-night training sessions, feeling strong, feeling alive. The laughter back at school turned to hushed conversations, Jason and his crew keeping their distance. The thrill of transformation was intoxicating. But then came the week when everything flipped upside down. Clara was icing her sore knuckles after a grueling training session. Glancing at her phone, a message popped up. An unknown number. Her heart raced. Curiosity tugged her in. She opened it. "Let's meet. I have something important to tell you. It's about Jason." Her hands trembled as she typed back, "Who is this?" No response came for hours, fear gnawing at her. Then suddenly the phone buzzed again. "Meet me after school at the old park." The old park? The very place where she once played as a child, now overgrown and shadowy. What could they want from her? When the final bell rang, Clara's heart thudded like a drum in her chest. Each step felt heavier than the last, as she made her way to that familiar, haunted place. The air thickened with anticipation and dread. And then she saw him. A figure stood in the dwindling light, the shadows playing tricks on her eyes. Leo? No, it was Jason. Clara felt her chest tighten. "Why are you here?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Clara, wait!" Jason took a step forward, hands raised. "Please, just listen. I know what you're doing, and I need to tell you something about why I did what I did." Shock coursed through her veins. Why would he want to talk? Suddenly, a sound erupted. A car screeched, tires screeching hard against asphalt. Clara turned, heart racing. A dark sedan careened towards them, slamming to a halt inches from where she stood. The door swung open, and then everything changed. A tall figure leaped out, anger erupting like a volcano. "Get away from her, Jason!" It was Leo, but he wasn't just Leo anymore. As he stood there, fury on his face, Clara noticed something glinting in the moonlight. A knife, tucked in his belt. "Whoa!" Jason stumbled back, eyes wide. "What's going on?" Clara's breath caught in her throat, confusion swirling around them like a storm. "Leo, what are you doing?" Leo's expression shifted, hardening into something she didn't recognize. "You don't understand, Clara. I can't let him hurt you again," he spat, eyes darting between her and Jason. "Wait! It's not like that!" Jason's voice trembled, but Clara could see the cold glint in his eyes, the challenge growing between them. The three of them stood frozen, the air thick with tension, the night closing in as secrets hung heavy around them. Clara's heart raced. In that moment, she felt an electric connection with both of them, and fear coiled within her. What had she stepped into? Then Leo took a step closer, and it was clear. Everything she thought she knew was about to unravel. How could she trust anyone now? "Tell me the truth," Clara whispered, her voice shaking. And there, in the deepening shadows of the old park, a silence fell as secrets waited to explode. Clara's heart raced, her breath hitching in her throat. Leo's intense gaze held her. but she couldn't shake the dread curling in her stomach. Jason stepped back, raising his hands in defense. Every muscle in Clara's body taut with uncertainty. "Let me explain." Jason's voice trembled, a sharp contrast to the bravado he usually flaunted. "I know what I did was wrong, but you need to hear this. What could you possibly say that would justify what you did?" Clara shot back, her voice stronger than she felt. The old park felt more suffocating than comforting, shadows stretching like dark fingers toward them. "Clara, just listen," Jason insisted, his voice rising with desperation. "There's something you need to know about Leo." The mention of Leo made Clara's heart skip. She glanced at him, searching for reassurance, but Leo's face was a mask of tension. "What is it?" she pressed, her voice trembling. Before Jason could reply, the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the moment. Clara's skin prickled as the shadows flickered, and another figure crept out from the darkness. Clara squinted, squinting at the sudden commotion, and gasped as she recognized the newcomer. "Jenna!" Her voice was barely a whisper, a lump forming in her throat. Jenna, Jason's former sidekick, strode forward, her expression a cocktail of anger and fear. "Get back, Jason. This isn't how it ends." Jenna's tone was fierce. "Clara, you don't know who you're dealing with." "What do you mean?" Clara's voice shook, anxiety watching over her. "What is happening?" Jenna exchanged a glance with Jason, and for a heartbeat, the world stood still. "It's about the night of the party," Jenna said, her voice low but urgent. "You don't know why Jason targeted you." "What are you even talking about?" Clara blinked, confusion swirling at the edges of her mind. Suddenly, from behind Jenna, two more figures emerged, bulky silhouettes that froze the air around them. Clara's heart raced anew as they stepped into the dim light. "Everything is about to change," one of them spoke. Their voice dripped with menace. Clara's chest tightened. "We didn't expect you to get this far, Clara." "Who are you?" she croaked, fear like ice creeping through her veins. The figures took a step closer, revealing themselves. Clara recognized them. It was Kyle and Sean, the muscle of Jason's crew. "You're just a pawn, Clara. You've been after the wrong battle." "Stop! Just stop!" Leo shouted, his fists clenched tightly. But Clara could see the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Lying and manipulating won't save you," Jason retorted, anger igniting in his expression. "Clara, I never meant for you to get hurt. We have a history that you don't know." "What kind of history?" Clara's heart raced, each beat echoing her growing sense of betrayal. "What are you hiding?" And just like that, everything unraveled. Jason took a deep breath and, for the first time, Clara saw a glimmer of something other than bravado. "You're connected to everything, Clara. It's more than just school politics. You're a part of this." "No, that's not possible." Her voice was shaky, disbelief making her numb. "Tell me the truth." But before Jason could respond, Kyle lunged forward, pushing Clara aside, directing all menace towards Leo. "You think you're the hero? You have no idea, do you?" Suddenly, Clara felt a sharp pain in her arm. She gasped and spun around to see Jason gripping her tightly, his face twisted with emotions she couldn't comprehend. "You don't know what you've gotten yourself into." "Let her go!" Leo shouted, stepping forward. And that was when everything exploded. A deafening roar echoed through the park. An explosion rattled the very ground beneath them. Clara's pulse quickened as dust and debris spiraled into the air, blinding and choking the night. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Shadows danced erratically. And Clara stumbled, disoriented, caught in the heart of something bigger than her fears. As she coughed and clawed at the air, she saw Leo grappling with Jason. The world spun. Is this what it meant to be terrified? To hold power over pain? But as Clara's eyes darted around in the turmoil, realization crashed over her. Secrets, alliances, betrayals, and truths, hiding beneath the surface, twisted into a web she was trapped in, one she never asked to be a part of. And just like that, in the eye of chaos, she understood that nothing would ever be the same again. What was hidden would now claw its way to the surface, and Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. She had to know the truth, and in the heart of the storm, she took a step forward into the unknown. Clara's heartbeat hammered in her ears as the chaos surrounded her. Dust settled like thick fog. She pushed herself forward, desperate to grasp the splintering situation. "Leo!" she shouted, voice cracking. But he was already moving, eyes set on Jason, ready for a fight, tension crackling between them. The air felt heavy, charged like a storm about to break. Then it happened. A shadow shifted behind her, and out of nowhere, a figure lunged forward, colliding with Leo. Clara froze. Another explosion ripped the air. This time, coming from the darkened edges of the park. Her breath caught, and the world faded into silence for a blink. Boom! A figure stood there, illuminated by a harsh streetlight, their face hidden by a mask. Clara's chest tightened, panic clawing at her as an icy realization flashed through her mind. This wasn't a random encounter. "Run!" shouted Leo, his voice like a whip. But Clara couldn't move, rooted in place. She watched as the masked figure pulled something from their pocket, a sleek object that gleamed menacingly in the dim light. "Clara!" Jason yelled, his bravado dissolved into pure fear. "Get away!" But she couldn't stop the whirling thoughts. Why would someone attack them here? Her eyes darted between Jason and Leo. All the fears and confusion flooded in. Everything that had happened, all the lies and secrets tangled together. The masked figure advanced, and Leo surged forward, blocking Jason. "Stay back!" he shouted, a wild look in his eyes. "Do you know what you got into?" the figure said, voice distorted, cutting through the silence like a razor. "You don't belong here, and this isn't about you." "About what?" Clara cried out, her own voice rising in desperation. "Just tell me, Clara," Leo said, his voice calm. But Clara saw the storm brewing behind his eyes. "Get behind me." But before she could move, the figure lunged, and a sharp burst of sound echoed as a blade flashed toward them. Clara barely registered the movement. It was instinct that kicked in. She grabbed Leo's arm and pulled him away just in time. The world shifted again, in an explosion of colours and sounds. Something sharp slashed through the night. A scream, raw and emotional, tore from behind her. Clara whipped around to see Jason clutching his arm, blood seeping through his fingers. "Go!" he bellowed, shock blaring across his face. "Get away from here!" Clara's stomach knotted. Jason, the boy who had terrorized her, the one whose laughter haunted her days, was hurt. For a brief moment, she felt a flicker of something. Compassion? Anger? The masked figure, thrown off guard, hesitated, and Clara seized the moment. "Shut up! Just leave us alone!" she shouted, feeling a surge of something fierce. But inside, she felt the weight of betrayal. the unsaid. Words hanging heavy. Before the figure could respond, another explosion rang out, this time from the trees. Clara caught sight of a flash, a car racing toward them, sirens wailing. "You think this is over?" the figure growled, backing up slowly, shrouded in shadows. "Who are you?" Clara gasped. The figure paused, a glint of something in their eyes. "Someone you trusted." Then they vanished, slipping into the night like smoke. Jason fell to the ground, blood pooling beneath him. Clara's heart raced with panic. Leo rushed to Jason's side, worry etched on his face. "Stay with me." Clara stared at the blood, the reality hitting her like a brick. "What just happened?" "I'll get you out of this," Leo promised. But Clara didn't know if she could trust him now either. "Clara, listen." Jason winced as he pressed his hand against his wound. But before he could continue, headlights swept through the darkness, illuminating their tangled mess of fear and desperation. Clara's breath hitched again. Everything she thought was clear now blurred. Secrets loomed, threatening to swallow them whole. "Clara!" Leo called, pulling her closer. "We need to move." She hesitated, eyes darting between the two boys who had defined her world in different ways. The weight of their histories pressed against her. "But what if? I don't know. We can't stay here." Leo's voice cut through. And then Clara made a choice. But as they turned to run, she felt a rogue emotion rise within her. A gut-wrenching awareness that the truth she sought was just out of reach, tangled in a web of darkness far deeper than she could have imagined. What lay ahead felt both frightening and exhilarating. In the back of her mind, one question pulsed like a heartbeat. What had she stepped into? And who could she truly trust now? Clara's heart hammered away in her chest as the chaos spun around her. She felt her thoughts racing, chasing the moments of fear and confusion. Where were they even safe? She had to focus. "Leo, we need to go," she urged, but Leo was still crouched next to Jason, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay with me, man," Leo said, his voice firm but shaking slightly. Jason winced, pressing his palm harder against the wound. A moment passed, thick with tension, and Clara could feel the panic rising in her throat. Suddenly, out of the shadows, Jenna's figure materialized again. "What are you doing? You need to leave now!" Her eyes were wide, darting around as if she could smell the trouble lingering in the air. Before Clara could respond, the sound of sirens wailing interrupted them, echoing through the park. The headlights flashed, cutting through the darkness and illuminating the scene. "Guys, we need to get out of here," Clara shouted. She grabbed Leo's arm, ready to pull him away, but Jason's voice stopped her. "Wait! Clara, listen!" He struggled to sit up, pain etched across his face. "There's something you don't understand. You're—" A loud crash erupted, cutting Jason off. A dark sedan slammed into the park entrance, tires screeching as it skidded to a stop. Clara's heart dropped. In a split second, the situation transformed into a nightmare. The door swung open, and more masked figures poured out, moving like shadows born from fear. Clara's mind raced. She couldn't grasp what was happening. "Leo!" she screamed, her voice piercing the air. "Go, Clara! Run!" Leo ordered, and panic fueled her legs as she turned to escape. But something held her back, something she couldn't ignore. "Jason, what were you trying to say?" she yelled over her shoulder, desperate for answers. His eyes flared with emotion, a mix of fear and determination. "You're in danger! Clara, they're after you because of—" Then a flash of movement caught her eye. One of the masked figures lunged, their eyes locked on Jason. "He's seen too much!" they shouted. The glint of metal reflected in the streetlights as they raised a weapon high. In a heartbeat, everything shattered. "No!" Clara screamed, instinct taking over. She threw herself in front of Jason, just as the figure struck, the knife slicing through her sleeve, grazing her skin. Time jolted to a halt. She felt a sharp pain ignite in her arm, and as she stumbled back, a dark warmth spread. Jason's eyes widened. "Clara!" he shouted, horror etched on his face. Then, through the mix of chaos and cries, something inexplicable happened. As if the world turned on its axis, Leo's expression shifted. He stepped closer to Clara, eyes darkening, revealing a depth she hadn't noticed before. "Clara, you don't know what you're part of. This isn't just about us." "Leo, what are you talking about?" She barely grasped the magnitude of the pain radiating from her arm, or the voices screaming in the background. Her gaze flicked between Leo and Jason, who was clearly losing strength. "A secret runs deeper than you can imagine," Leo said, tension coiling between them like a living thing. "You're connected to all of this. To Jason, to me, to the marsh figures." For a moment, fear gripped her hard, squeezing the breath from her lungs. "What do you mean? Am I part of their game?" Just then, Jenna shouted, "We have to move now!" Siren light swirled around them, and then it hit her, an electric surge of realization. Everything she'd been through, all the pain, it wasn't random. It was planned. But before she could process it, the air grew thick with tension as another figure emerged from the shadows behind Leo. "Time's up!" they shouted, and Clara froze, eyes widening. The resemblance was uncanny. The figure pulled off the mask, revealing a face she knew all too well. "Mum?" Clara's voice wavered, disbelief washing over her in waves. The air thickened. Heavy with shock and revelations. In that moment, everything spiraled into utter chaos. The lines of trust fraying like a torn thread. What connections lay hidden in this labyrinth of lies? And in the eye of the storm, Clara was left questioning everything, staring into the eyes of the person she thought she understood most. Clara's heart raced, her breath hitching in her throat. "Mom?" The words slipped out like a secret she had buried in the depths of her being. Her mother stood there, face twisted in an unsettling mix of regret and urgency. "Clara, I can explain." It was her voice, but there was a raw edge that felt foreign. Jason, clutching his wound, looked between them with wide eyes. "You brought this on us!" he spat, the anger bubbling close to the surface. The shadows around them felt more alive now. Every whisper of leaves and rustle of grass seemed to fury. "I did what I had to do to protect you." "Protect me!" Clara echoed, her voice trembling as rage bubbled within her. "From what? From who?" But her mother didn't answer. Instead, the masked figures paused. Their eyes were locked onto Clara's mother, confusion flickering behind their masks. It was as if the air itself paused. A heartbeat skipped among them. Clara felt something dangerous shift. "You know them!" she gasped, heart in a vice around her throat. The figures exchanged glances, then one stepped forward, unmasking himself. It was someone from the shadows of her past. Matthew, Clara's former friend. The boy who had vanished with no explanation, leaving her in a spiral of questions. "Clara, you didn't know." Matthew's voice held a venomous sweetness. Your mother is the reason for all of this. Is this true? Clara's voice shook with disbelief. What do you mean? But before Matthew could respond, there was a loud crash from the entrance of the park. 2 more masked figures poured in, weapons drawn, eyes buzzing with adrenaline. Get her now! One shouted, and the tension exploded like fireworks in the dark. Leo, protect her! Clara's mother screamed, panic etched into her features. Leo moved instinctively, shoving Clara behind him as Matthew lunged. But something collided in the chaos. The figures attacked, swarming like a dark cloud, and in a split second, everything dissolved into noise and fear. Clara's world narrowed to a blinding focus. Leo's courage was a beacon, but even that flickered under the weight of adrenaline-infused chaos. Why, Mom? She shouted, tears spilling down her cheeks unchecked now. Why didn't you tell me? As if hearing the cry, Clara's mother turned, desperation flooding her features. Because it's not just about us, Clara. It's bigger than you think. Boom! Another explosion rippled through the park, a wave of heat washing over them. This time, the ground shook beneath their feet, and the world seemed to shift in a way that felt supernatural, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Clara staggered, her senses overwhelmed. She looked around, heart pounding against her ribs. The masked figures were approaching, and everything felt like a swirling nightmare. No! She screamed, fighting against the tide of panic rising in her throat. We can't! Let them take us! But Matthew stepped closer, a wicked smile cutting across his face like cracked glass. Oh, but Clara, you already belong to us. You just didn't know it yet. Before she could process his words, the ground trembled once more. With a horrifying crack, the earth beneath them gave way. Clara reached for anything to hold on to, her mind screaming as the ground opened up like a gaping mouth. Mom! She cried out. But Clara felt herself falling, slipping through the chaos. And in that dizzying plunge, something shifted inside her. A truth buried deep began to claw its way to the surface. The world above faded, clinging to her with fingers of darkness, and Clara realized that all the answers she sought might lie in the abyss waiting below. As the darkness enveloped her, one thought echoed in her mind. Everything she thought she knew was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Clara's world spiraled as she plunged into darkness, her heart pounding like a drum. The ground felt soft, swallowing her whole. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for whatever lay ahead. And then, nothing. Silence wrapped around her like a thick blanket. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The dark beginning to fade. Above her, a sliver of light peeped through, illuminating a strange underground chamber. Clara blinked, trying to piece together fragments of reality. The air smelled damp, earthy. She took a shuddering breath, her heart still racing. Clara, a voice echoed, harsh and desperate. It was Leo. She scrambled to her feet, her breath hitching again. Leo, are you okay? I'm here, he shouted, a flicker of relief in his voice. But we need to move, now. Clara looked around, panic rising. Where were they? The walls were cold and grey, almost like stone. What happened to Jason? Where's my... Before she could finish, the ground shook violently beneath her. Dust cascaded down from the ceiling, blinding her for a moment. Clara's heart sank as she stumbled, grabbing Leo's arm for support. What is this place? He shook his head, eyes wide. I don't know, but we have to find a way out. But before they could run, the earth rumbled again. The dim light flickered, illuminating a heavy door. At the far end of the chamber, Clara felt drawn to it. Leo, there! They rushed towards the door, adrenaline propelling them forward. But as they reached it, the door burst open. Clara gasped, her heart in her throat. A figure emerged, shrouded in shadows, face hidden. It moved with unsettling speed, seizing Clara by the wrist. "You shouldn't be here." The voice was low, gravelly, laced with authority. "Let her go," Leo shouted, stepping protectively in front of her. But the figure only tightened its grip, pulling Clara closer. "Do you really think you've escaped?" The figure's voice was chilling. "You have no idea what you're part of. You're in the middle of something much bigger than you realize." "Who are you?" Clara stammered, her usual defiance crumbling in the face of sheer terror. The figure paused, lowering its hood just enough for light to catch a glimpse of familiar features. Clara's breath hitched as recognition washed over her. It was someone she never thought she'd see again. "No, it can't be." "Hello, Clara," her dad said, a mix of shadowy sadness and fierce determination in his eyes. "What?" The ground tilted beneath her. "But you're supposed to be gone. I saw the accident." He stepped closer, voice wavering with emotion. "I faked it, Clara, for your safety. There are forces at play that you can't imagine. It was the only way to protect us both." Leo's face went pale. "Your dad?" "Yes." She turned back to her father, confusion spiraling. Inside her. "But why would you? Why now?" "Because it's all connected," he shouted. "Jason, Leo, even the masked figures, this isn't just a coincidence. They're all after something. And you're the key." Cold dread seeped into Clara's moans. "The key? What do you mean?" Just then, a loud crack echoed through the chamber. A section of the ground shifted, revealing a gaping pit. Clara stumbled back, horror flooding her system. "No! Clara!" Leo reached for her, but she felt herself pulled closer to the edge. What lay beneath was darkness incarnate. Her heart raced. This wasn't just about them anymore. The lies, the secrets, they were entwined in a fate she couldn't escape. "Clara, you have to trust me," her father yelled, desperation in his voice. Desperate now. The ground trembled once more. Clara's mind raced with fear and confusion. Trust who? Her father? The boy she thought she could trust? Suddenly, she felt Leo's hand on her shoulder. Firm and steady. "We can figure this out together. You're not alone." But the shadows around them deepened, swallowing her thoughts. Was she ready to confront the truth of who she was? And as the voices of deceit and loyalty tangled in her mind, one question lingered above all. What did it mean to be the key? As the darkness loomed closer, Clara steadied her breath, knowing that whatever was about to happen would change everything, forever. Clara's heart raced, her breath hitching in her throat. "Mom?" The words slipped out like a secret she had buried in the depths of her being. Her mother stood there, face twisted in an unsettling mix of regret and urgency. "Clara, I can explain." It was her voice, but there was a raw edge that felt foreign. Jason, clutching his wound, looked between them with wide eyes. "You brought this on us," he spat, the anger bubbling close to the surface. The shadows around them felt more alive now. Every whisper of leaves and rustle of grass seemed to mock the chaos unfolding. "No, Jason, it's not like that." Clara's mother raised her hands as if to shield against his fury. I did what I had to do to protect you. Protect me? Clara echoed, her voice trembling as rage bubbled within her. From what? From who? But her. Mother didn't answer. Instead, the masked figures paused. Their eyes were locked onto Clara's mother, confusion flickering behind their masks. It was as if the air itself paused. A heartbeat skipped among them. Clara felt something dangerous shift. You know them, she gasped, heart in a vice around her throat. The figures exchanged glances. Then one stepped forward, unmasking himself. It was someone from the shadows of her past. Matthew, Clara's former friend, the boy who had vanished with no explanation, leaving her in a spiral of questions. Clara, you didn't know? Matthew's voice held a venomous sweetness. Your mother is the reason for all of this. Is this true? Clara's voice shook with disbelief. What do you mean? But before Matthew could respond, there was a loud crash from the entrance of the park. 2 more masked figures poured in, weapons drawn, eyes buzzing with adrenaline. Get her now, one shouted, and the tension exploded like fireworks in the dark. Leo, protect her! Clara's mother screamed. Panic etched into her features. Leo moved instinctively, shoving Clara behind him as Matthew lunged. But something collided in the chaos. The figures attacked, swarming like a dark cloud, and in a split second, everything dissolved into noise and fear. Clara's world narrowed to a blinding focus. Leo's courage was a beacon, but even that flickered under the weight of adrenaline-infused chaos. Why, Mom? She shouted, tears spilling down her cheeks, unchecked now. Why didn't you tell me? As if hearing her cry, Clara's mother turned, desperation flooding her features. Because it's not just about us, Clara. It's bigger than you think. Boom! Another explosion rippled through the park, a wave of heat washing over them. This time, the ground shook beneath their feet, and the world seemed to shift in a way that felt supernatural, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Clara staggered, her senses overwhelmed. She looked around, heart pounding against her ribs. The masked figures were approaching, and everything felt like a swirling nightmare. No, she screamed, fighting against the tide of panic rising in her throat. We can't let them take us. But Matthew stepped closer, a wicked smile cutting across his face like cracked glass. Oh, but Clara, you already belong to us. You just didn't know it yet. Before she could process his words, the ground trembled once more. With a horrifying crack, the earth beneath them gave way. Clara reached for anything to hold on to, her mind screaming, as the ground opened up like a gaping mouth. Mom, she cried out. But Clara felt herself falling, slipping through the chaos. And in that dizzying plunge, something shifted inside her. A truth buried deep began to claw its way to the surface. The world above faded, clinging to her with fingers of darkness, and Clara realized that all the answers she sought just might lie in the abyss waiting below. As the darkness enveloped her, a jarring thought emerged, piercing through the haze. The floor beneath her, instead of being solid ground, was a layer of shimmering darkness, almost like water. Clara felt herself land lightly. It was warm, but a strange warmth, as if life itself was drumming beneath her feet. Then it happened. A blinding light erupted from the shadows, and with it came screams, loud, deafening, echoing around the chamber. Suddenly, everything shifted again. The shadows morphed into shapes, and Clara's eyes widened as a figure emerged from the depths, a figure she had never expected to see. It was her father. Clara's heart stopped. Dad? The word tumbled from her lips, despair mixing with shock. She wasn't prepared for this, for the air, heavy with confusion, thickening all around her. "Clara, listen!" he shouted urgently, eyes wild, a realization spilling from him like a flood. "You have to understand. You're stronger than you know. They want you for more than just a key." "What do you mean?" Her knees weakened, squeezing Leo's hand tighter, grounding herself against the storm swirling within her. "It's in your blood, Clara. You're part of a lineage that connects back generations. You have powers that I was trying to protect you from," he declared, his voice a mixture of pride and fear. Her mind reeled. "Powers? Generations? You're lying!" But doubt gnawed at the edges of her confidence. The ground quaked again, and Clara stumbled back. Suddenly, she was a spectator in her own story. As the echoes of truth drummed louder, her world flipped on its axis. Matthew stepped closer, a knowing smirk creeping across his face. "Seems like it's time to reveal the real game, doesn't it?" He launched a whisper that filled the air with electricity. "Earth isn't your only home, and you might have to choose sides." What? Suddenly everything felt like a sick twist of fate. The people she trusted, the very foundation of her life, shattered like glass. And as the figures closed in, the twisted threads of fate tangling more tightly around Clara. The walls around her pushed in, choking on the truths waiting to be uncovered. Clara stood, heart thrumming wildly, breath caught in an ever-constricting vise. What was she really walking into? A battle for her soul? A fight for power? Or something deeper still? Something that would redefine everything she thought she knew? With doubt swirling like a tempest, one thought pierced through all the chaos. Who was she really? And what did she want? Clara stood there, heart racing, caught between confusion and something worse, the haze of the unknown thickening all around them. Her father's words hung heavy in the air. "Bigger than you think. What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, another tremor rippled through the ground, shaking the very fabric of their reality. The figures around them shifted, wariness mixing with anticipation. "Enough games!" Matthew shouted, fists clenched, his face twisted in anger. "You're just prolonging the inevitable." The weight of his words pressed down on Clara like a heavy fog. What was going on? The world spun. Matthew's expression faltered for a fleeting moment, revealing a hint of fear buried beneath his bravado. "You don't know what they're capable of." "Who are they?" Clara shouted, desperation clawing at her voice. "What do you want from me?" But just as she demanded answers, the shadows that loomed around them thickened, swirling like a storm. A low hum vibrated through the air, sending chills racing down Clara's spine. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted at the far end of the chamber, and everyone turned to face it. Figures emerged from the light like ghosts, their presence chilling. They wore uniforms, polished and precise, faces concealed beneath sleek helmets. "Clara Parker," one said in a mechanical voice that echoed ominously. "You are hereby called to answer for your connection to this lineage. Step forward." The world around her shifted, and Clara felt an icy grip on her heart. Her breath caught in her throat. "No, no, I won't go anywhere." "Clara!" her father shouted, panic cracking his voice. "You have to listen. You need to—" But it was too late. The ground trembled violently again. Before anyone could react, tendrils of shadow reached out from the darkness, wrapping around Clara's ankles like shackles. "Dad!" she screamed, struggling against the grip tightening around her. "Let her go!" Leo shouted, moving to help her, but the same shadow snaked around him too. The two of them were caught, shoulders brushing, hearts racing next to each other, as the shadows pulled them both toward the blinding light. "Stop!" Clara cried out, fighting against the darkness. But the figures remained emotionless, their intentions shrouded in silence. Then, without warning, a pulse of light exploded from the center, washing over them like a wave. It collided with the shadows, causing everything to shatter. A flash flickered, and then the world twisted. An overwhelming surge of pain exploded in Clara's chest. In that moment of chaos, she felt something snap. She gasped, doubling over as memories flooded back, like tidal waves crashing into her mind. Truths she'd locked away, buried screams demanding to be heard. "Clara!" Leo's voice sounded so far away. "Stay with me." But in the chaos, one memory rose above all others. A fragment that made everything as clear as glass. A family secret her mother had whispered long ago. An old legend. Don't trust the bloodline. It's both a gift and a curse. And then the horrifying truth unfurled in Clara's mind like a dark flower. "I am," she gasped. "I'm part of this." "Yes," her father shouted from somewhere in the chaos, desperation in his eyes. "Your power runs deeper than you know. You were never just a girl." Matthew's face twisted in fury, his hands now twitching with raw energy. "You think you're special, Clara? You haven't even begun to understand." The air crackled. Clara felt the ache in her bones. The masked figures advanced, and she caught sight of the hilt of a weapon poking out from one of them. It was like nothing she'd ever seen before, dark and dangerous. "Clara, fight!" Leo urged, taking her arm as the shadows clawed at them. They were on the brink of something monumental. But she was losing herself in the madness. And then it hit her. A realization as shocking as thunder. "Leo!" she shouted, terror mixing with urgency. "It's you! You're part of this too, aren't you?" The look in Leo's eyes shifted, a glimmer of something unrecognizable bursting forth. A power surged around him, a reflection of the chaos that thrummed through her veins. He hesitated. Shadowed emotions flickering in the darkness. Before she could demand answers, the darkness erupted into a blinding light around them. The roar of the unknown washed over them, and the world beyond vanished. Clara felt herself falling once more, spiraling into an abyss where all her connections were fraying, and every truth had the potential to betray her. As everything blurred away, one question screamed in her head. What untold secrets would she unlock? And who could she really trust before it was all too late? Even as she fell into the unknown, destiny loomed, waiting to unveil its shocking revelations. Clara's breath caught as the world around her dissolved into a whirlpool of confusion and light. She stood at the edge of her fate, surrounded by shadows that danced like flickering flames. The presence of her father burned bright, his urgency radiating through the chaos. "Clara!" he shouted, pushing through the crowd of masked figures. "You have to reach deep inside. You have power. Your bloodline is what they want." "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, fear and anger swirling within her. A tremor rippled beneath her feet, pulling her focus. "You can't just accept this. You need to fight." Leo's voice snapped her back to the moment, the warmth of his presence grounding her amidst the storm. Then the shadows pressed in closer, swirling around them like a tempest. Clara felt the energy shift. The room pulsed with anticipation. With a sudden surge of determination, she stepped forward, standing firm. "Stay back," she shouted, voice steady. "You don't own me," Matthew sneered. "All of them combined," he urged, his voice resonating deep within her. Clara's heart raced, and suddenly she felt it, a surge of energy that pulsed through every fibre of her being. Memories flashed, her mother's whispers, the legends, tales of warriors who fought for their truths. The weight of their lineage pushed through her, filling her with fierce resolve. "I am not just a pawn," Clara shouted, fueled by clarity. "I am Clara Parker, and I will fight." With that, an explosion of light burst from her, casting aside the shadows. The masked figures staggered back, their confidence shaken as Clara surged forward, Leo right at her side. "We need to push through," he shouted, taking her hand. Together, they charged toward the darkness, minds intertwined in single purpose. The figures faltered, and with every step they took, Clara felt her strength grow. She unleashed a pulse of energy that rippled through her surroundings, striking the masked figures with power. "Fight," she cried, and with her words, the shadows twisted, losing their grip. "Incredible!" her father shouted, newfound pride in his eyes as he joined their stand. They pushed against the chaos until the figures stumbled, shifting under the weight of Clara's determination. But just as victory felt near, the chamber shook violently. The walls appeared to close in, trembling beneath the pressure. "What's happening?" Clara gasped, fear creeping back. "This place is collapsing," her father warned, urgency spewing forth like the tremors under their feet. "We must escape!" Without hesitation, Clara led the charge toward the light that flickered at the other end of the chamber. But the shadows lunged again, scrambling to regain their footing. "Stay focused," Leo shouted, eyes locked on Clara. "We can't stop, not now." As they moved, the ground quaked, the walls crumbling. Clara could feel the weight of fear, but hope surged within her, blazing like fire. Together, they leaped through the light, launching into a vast void beyond. Everything tumbled in a whirlwind of color, sound, and light. Then they landed softly on solid ground, gasping for breath. Clara looked around, realizing they were on the other side, a serene clearing lit by a golden sunset. The masked figures were gone. The darkness receded, leaving only an echo of the chaos behind. Leo turned too. "Clara," eyes filled with awe. "You did it, we did it." Her father stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "I'm proud of you, Clara. This isn't over, but you'll never face it alone again." "I know that," she whispered, a warmth enveloping her. "We made it through, together." As the golden sun dipped beneath the horizon, Clara felt a weight lift. They had escaped. The battle was won, but the journey was just beginning. The truth remained. Threads of destiny still woven together by the shadows. "Even with all of this, we need to dig deeper," Clara said, resolve written on her face. "The fight isn't finished." Leo nodded, determination in his eyes. "We'll figure it out, together." But as they retreated into the light, behind them, the remnants of shadow stirred, and somewhere in the distance, an echo whispered. The truth they sought was waiting, poised to strike again. This was just the beginning. Now listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss upcoming exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this community alive, people. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. You know I want to hear everything. And don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this epic conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let's keep the momentum going.